Greg Gard, John Blackwell, Max Klesmit joining us now as we continue here on Big Ten Basketball Media Days. Guys, thanks for being with us. Greg, you've been doing this a long time. I think you mentioned it's been 24 years now in this league. Does this year feel different with everything that's going on, not just in Madison, but outside of Madison, from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast?
Right. Yeah, there's obviously, Rick, there's been a lot of change, and college athletics is changing, college basketball is changing. Our league has changed. We've grown. I think I mentioned earlier, when I started in this league, we had 11 teams. Now we've almost doubled that total. So it's exciting. It's exciting for our fans. It's exciting for our coaching staff, and I'm most excited to watch these guys and their teammates play this year.
Now, that means the assistant coaches have 7 more teams, though, to scout. I'm not so sure they're excited about that part of it.
It's good for them to work hard. I got a great group that enjoys that.
And a couple of great players with you as well. John Blackwell had a terrific season last year. Max Klesmit, a guy who, when he catches fire like nobody else. Greg, do me a favor and help me introduce these guys, if you will. Share a little bit about John.
Well, John, I think, obviously, I played him about 20 to 25 minutes a game. I should have played him about 28 to 30. We might have won more games. That was my fault. But for him as a freshman to get the experience he did, I've seen the results of what that can do, what that's done for him in terms of his confidence. He's come back with a confidence and an aura about him that makes him a dominant player. I think he can be one of the better players in our league, and obviously he's got a great backcourt mate in Klesmit next to him.
John, for you, how do you see your role changing, maybe becoming more important this year with some of those veteran departures?
I think as a leader, I have to step up more, be more vocal, because, I stepped into that role now, and it comes with that. And then off the scoring a little bit more. I know some of our scorers either transferred or departed because they graduated, but just stepping in and scoring and providing that scoring ability to help these guys out.
Greg, what about Max, a guy obviously who came originally transfer portal from Wofford, and we saw a lot of what he could do a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's as much as the outside world emphasizes the importance of retaining stars, and not that Max is not a star, but Max is a great culture guy. We've had so many players like him that have won a lot of games over the years. You start with Josh Gosser, Zach Showalter, Brad Davison. He epitomizes what it means to be a Wisconsin Badger. Obviously, he's from the state, but he understands the toughness. He understands how to impact winning. He understands, obviously, he's gone on great scoring sprees, and he knows how to find the bottom of the basket. But I think how he helps pull everything else together and be one of our foundational pieces is important, and you have to have those guys. I think that in today's era, if you lose those guys that really help hold you together and anchor your other guys together, you lose your way. And thankfully, we got Max along with others that really anchor us to keep us true to who we are.
Max, when you think about the role that you play and the role that you want to play to make this team as good as it can be, what is that role?
Just alluding to kind of what John said, being the leader, kind of, setting the example, whether that's, lead by example or be a voice for the younger guys, the newcomers in the locker room. I think it's super important. We start conference games December 4th this year, so that's something that starts really early, and you got to have everybody on the same page a little bit sooner than you might expect. But yeah, the non-conference is going to be tough as well. Just having everybody ready to go, prepared mentally, physically throughout the whole season. It's kind of something that I'm looking forward to playing a big part in, taking a bigger role in the leadership aspect of it and kind of growing everybody's game, feeding confidence in every guy on the team. But yeah, I think that's something that I'm kind of looking forward to do and even expanding on at times.
Culture can be built in a lot of different ways. Now, one of my spies inside your program tells me that despite all these great things you're saying about Max and his leadership, and John, you need to confirm this for me, that you are by far the biggest trash talker on the team, and not just when it comes to opponents, but also when it comes to practice. Can you confirm or deny this as his teammate?
I can confirm. Any drill, he's talking. It doesn't matter if it's a rebounding drill or passing drill. He's gonna talk. I think I'm close second though. I like to talk a little bit.
We got a little chuckle out of Coach Gard there in a good way. I'll second
it. Yeah,
but in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. And John is kind of the quiet heckler. The quiet enticer, so to speak. He probably does as much with his play as he does with his words, but there's no close second to Klesmit. He's running away with it easily.
John, what about within your own family? Because your dad played at Illinois, so when you're in the season, I know he's rooting for you. He may have torn allegiances when you play against the Illini. Is there any family chatter during the year, especially when you're matching up against Illinois?
Not really. Just me and him chattering to each other, telling how I'm better than him, or he telling me he can't shoot. You can't shoot like me. So, not any against any other team. Just me and him going back and forth.
You can't settle that on the driveway?
He too old now. Anytime he tries to play me, he laughs and says, "I can't take you serious when I play you now." So I think he's just ducking me because I'm stronger and faster now.
Now, Greg, you mentioned that Max is obviously a Badger by birth and went to Wofford and now came back. But, Max, I understand you're so ingrained in the Wisconsin culture that you took your teammates from Wofford and you would ask them to drive some 30 to 40 minutes to get real fast food and introduce them to Culver's. And what were their thoughts?
Well, I changed their mind on the best burger they've ever had. Yeah, there was one in Greenville, South Carolina, which was like, 20, 30-minute drive. But, yeah, there's a couple California dudes, Oklahoma guys. I was like, you guys ever had a butter burger from Culver's before? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, you're about to get introduced. So we went. A lot of them hadn't heard of, like, what cheese curds were either. That was, like, mind-blowing to them. Something like that was even unearthed. The concrete mixer was crazy to them as well. But, no, yeah, it was nice to kind of, like, broaden their horizon, introduce them to something that might be life-changing to someone.
Life-changing. I love it. We're bringing that Midwestern culture and changing lives down in the South. Back on the floor, Stephen Krell's with you. He's not with us on the desk, but he is here today, and a guy who gets set for his last year. We have seen Stephen have some huge games, can be a mismatch nightmare, especially when he is shooting the three well and can work that inside-outside. What do you hope you get from him this season?
That he plays to his potential of being an all-league player, I think, consistently, because I've been around we've had a lot of good big guys roll through the program over the last 20 years, and he's as good as any of them when he really performs at a high level. So for Steven, it's a matter of being consistent night in and night out. If he does what he's been doing in practice the first couple weeks here, we're going to be in good shape.
Greg, every team is affected by the portal in some way in the offseason. How did you deal with the departures, and what was your philosophy as you kind of enter the offseason in that space?
Yeah, the philosophy was we had to recruit positionally very specific, and we did that with Xavier Amos as a stretch four, John Tanjay as a big attacking wing, and then Cameron Hunter as another backcourt for these guys as a point guard. So we approached it very intentional about who we wanted to go after and the type of player we needed to have, and all three have been terrific in terms of their fit and their blend to what we're doing. So, we lost good players, as everybody did, whether they graduate or move on. Nothing stays the same, but you have to adjust in today's transient nature, and we've been able to do that in a really good way. And I'm excited just to watch this group to come together because we've got a lot of size, a lot of depth. We're really skilled. We shoot it better than we have in the last couple years from all positions. So I'm just excited for November 4th to get here when we can actually turn them loose.
Well, couple more minutes with these guys as we turn it back to a little bit more of a serious basketball conversation for you, John, after such a phenomenal year last year, where maybe for some defenses you were flying under the radar. That's obviously not going to be the case this year. So how do you continue to elevate your game, and what areas do you need to improve to get where you want to be by the end of the year?
I would just say with consistency, going out there and being consistent in what I do, how I score the ball, and then my mental. See how teams approach me, how teams guard me and scout me a little bit different. I got to be prepared for that mentally. So,
similarly for you, Max, where do you need to improve this coming season for you, not just to get to where you want to be, but to where Coach Gard and the rest of the team needs you to be?
Yeah, I think just more of like a playmaking with the ball in my hand, maybe a little bit more, whether that's making the right read, coming off a screen, taking care of the ball, things like that. I think, like John said too, obviously being consistent is a huge thing in college basketball and in basketball in general. So yeah, I think I'm a huge believer in the work's going to work. It's easy to work hard when you got someone like this right next to you that sets a really good example for, what it takes to improve your game and, how much you really got to work on it and things like that. But I think just, being a solid playmaker with the ball in your hand, making the right decision, not going too fast, not going too slow, being able to control the tempo, kind of lead the team in that aspect.
Greg, let's finish here. coaches have had different philosophies on this that I've spoken to earlier this morning. It is still just the game in front of you versus we need to look at the schedule now with different travel, kind of figure things out, maybe talk to other folks who have had to do this and manage all that before the year starts so it doesn't come as a surprise when it jumps up. What's your take on that with you and your staff?
Yeah, I think, our non-conference schedule prepares us for the league. And we have Arizona, we have Marquette, we have Butler, we're in an MTE. So we'll have a lot of exposure to really good teams before we hit the first league game. But the travel is going to be, that's going to be new. We were able to play on the West Coast last year at Arizona, so we understand, how you have to adjust and the amount of time you need in terms of travel and adjustment. So as I've coined, there are no get well games. Once you jump into that 20 game slate.
We're looking at your schedule right now, and you're absolutely correct.
I don't find that there's not any easy ones there. Fortunately, for everybody else, they're thinking the same thing. So we'll just look forward to kicking it off here soon and watching these guys work.
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge for all 18 teams, no question. Max Klesmit, John Blackwell, Greg Gard, truly appreciate you guys being with us today.
Thanks, Rick.
Wisconsin.